Welcome back to Wonder Dream Podcasts, episode 2. Obviously, in the first episode, I went through the state of DC, and I went through a lot, and I mean a lot. It was pretty detailed. I recorded about 2 hours worth of stuff, but it's a 42-minute podcast. So, I hope you enjoyed that, and that's the reason why you've come back to listen to more. I said in the last podcast for episode 2, I was going to go through the Joker script, which I mentioned, which I was currently scripting just in case some of you were interested in wanting to hear more. So I'm just going to quickly load up the scripts right there. We go. The film is called Joker Loves Harley. It was initially titled The Joker, but then after scripting it after a while and coming up with different ideas and scripting it, I came up with the idea of Joker Loves Harley. So that's currently the working title, Joker Loves Harley. It might change, it might not, but I do like the title because it fits in with the storyline and the plot and everything, which I did mention in the last episode. Obviously, I'll give you a couple of spoilers. I'll read out some of the script. I won't give too much away because I've already given the first 6-7 pages away of the scripts back in end of January, but that's completely changed now. That I done. That's been scrapped. Obviously, that's the beginning is not that now. It's something completely different, which I'm going to go through now. I'll give you that spoiler because obviously I already have done when I was first drafting it. That was just a draft of the opening, but the opening's completely changed, so it kind of changes the storyline and the plot and everything to it. It links all in, but it's still it's still the film that I intend it to be. So obviously, I did mention that it's a film about the Joker. It's not an origin story. It's more like a follow-on to bits that happen in Suicide Squad and other bits that was mentioned. It goes through quite a lot of stuff. Just bear with me. I want to detail it, but I just don't want to give too much away because obviously I'm still scripting it, and I don't if I send this off and it does actually get somewhere, I don't want to be giving it all away, because then when you know where I'm coming from. But basically, the beginning, obviously I said it starts with Harley Quinn and 7 of Joker's henchmen outside a warehouse. Basically they go up to the warehouse. Harley Quinn plants a dynamite onto the door. They blow the door off. It's a massive bust. They go in there. Harley Quinn, she takes all the money in there. The Joker rings her and she's like, "Oh yeah, put in. We've got the money and this, that, and that." And then there's a massive fight scene in there between Harley Quinn, 7 of Joker's henchmen, massive with all the mobsters that are in there guarding the money, and there's a massive fight scene and all that in there. Then Batman comes in, and then he starts fighting off the Joker's henchmen, and then because he wants to stop the Joker one for all whilst he's fighting Harley Quinn, he injects himself with the Joker toxin because he's basically had enough, because he can't get to the Joker and it's pretty much pissing him off. So yeah, he injects himself with the Joker toxin. He goes crazy. He kidnaps Harley Quinn to start with from there and takes her away to Arkham Asylum, and then the Joker finds out about it a couple of hours later. One of the guys which set up the Joker's henchmen, basically set up the heist for the Joker, basically comes into the nightclub. The Joker's there, the guy goes through everything, the Joker's pretty much pissed off because he's lost millions, and then the Joker basically finds out that Batman's kidnapped Harley Quinn. So the main plot of the film is the Joker trying to track down Batman and trying to get Harley Quinn back, whilst other things are happening around this main plot. You're going to have, Poison Ivy's going to come into it, because Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy are basically best friends, so that's going to come into it. You're going to have flashbacks of stuff which Harley Quinn and the Joker have done in the past, so, that's going to link into, events that are happening current. The Joker's also going to have flashbacks, when he's going, he's on his travels trying to track down Batman, he's beating people up and, he's trying to get information to find out what's going on. You're going to have flashbacks that will correspond to whatever that person, is torturing or whatnot says. Like for instance, in one of the scenes when the Joker's torturing someone and he cuts one of the person's fingers off, that person goes through, "Oh, you don't deserve it because this happened and that happened and this did," and then the flashback will come in, corresponding to whatever they were saying. So there's quite a lot of flashbacks that go with it, and there's a massive Arkham scene, and also there is in a sense it's like a follow-on and a prequel in a sense, because you've got an entire Arkham Asylum scene where the Joker meets Harley Quinn, but it's more advanced. It's about 14 pages long, so it corresponds to about 12 to 15 minutes film-wise. Maybe a bit longer, it might be cut down, it just depends on, what had happened with that, but it's pretty advanced. It goes more into, Harley Quinn basically being the Joker's therapist, and it goes more detailed on, the Joker, basically turning Harley Quinn into Harley Quinn. The tactics, the ways he does it, the mind games, and all. It's pretty detailed. I'm not gonna, say like read it out, because this it's a really good scene. It took me a while to figure that out, because I had to go through different comic book material and that to get that perfect and fit it in with the comic book material so it's perfect. It took me a couple of weeks to do them. I think it's about 14 pages. It might be a bit longer now because I did go back and forth, but that did take a while, because I wanted it to correspond to how the Joker is to Harley Quinn, and there's so many origin stories to the Joker turning Dr. Harley Quinzel into Harley Quinn. I just needed to pick out the right one and just adapt upon it, which I have done. So there is that, but there is another couple of things which I did script and I took out. There was an entire scene with the Batmobile and the Joker, and basically the Joker and the Batman fighting on top of the Batman. It was pretty advanced. The Joker and the Batman were fighting on top of the Batmobile. Harley Quinn was driving a car in front. So it's not like a copy of the Suicide Squad's chase scene. It's completely different, but it's like that. The Batman's chasing them down. Harley Quinn takes the wheel. The Joker gets on top of the car. He's shooting at the Batman, and then, the Joker jumps onto the Batmobile and they're fighting on top of the Batmobile. I've completely scrapped that now, because it's still there in the draft, but I've just completely scrapped it because I don't think it's relevant to the plot line. It was a flashback, but I'll keep it in there, as a draft, but it probably will be removed from the script. Now, like I said, I'm 54 pages in. It's still not done. It'll be a couple of months before I do end up finishing it. But there's a couple of things which I do want to go through. And I'll give you a spoiler. Let me just look through the script. Was the Arkham Asylum scene? You might like this quote. There's a lot of quotes in here. Like I said, with the Arkham Asylum scene, it is quite advanced. But I'm just looking through it now to see which bits to give you. I don't want to give you out the big bits. Exterior Arkham Asylum shows words in the beginning. Yes, this bit. Because I put a lot of quotes in there from what the Joker says in the comics, and like I said, I want to link it in with a lot of the comic book material. What can we go through? Arkham Asylum, here we go. I'll go through this. I'll give you this. So there's a massive paragraph which the Joker says, because he's trying to get inside of Harley Quinn's head. So I'll try to do it in a Joker voice out. I'll try. Right, so basically Harley Quinn and the Joker are sat at the desk inside the the therapy room. There's different sections. It goes through the therapy room with the Joker and Harley Quinn. You've got the Joker when he's in his cell. There's other bits. There's a lot of things that happen within this massive, scene with Harley Quinn meets the Joker. I've made it more advanced to what it is in the comics, and I did my own bits into it to spice it up a little bit. So basically, this actually was in a comic which I read, and I've just adapted upon it. So basically, the Joker, like I said, I'll try to read in a Joker voice. Bear with me. Right, so let's have a look. So yeah, Harley Quinn and the Joker are sat at a desk. The Joker goes, when I was younger, my dad used to beat me up every time I spoke back to him, or even when I was just sat there minding my own business. Then bam, he slams his arm. I should have slammed my dad. He slams his arm at his desk after that bit. Then he goes, there was one time when my dad was all right though. We went to the circus when I was a kid. There was one clown there with big black eyes that I can relate to. Also, we would run around the circus, me and my dad, such fun times. Every time he saw a clown, he would trip over and drop his pen just for the laugh of it. I thought my old man would grab a few bucks for that. And obviously, it just because I said I'd do it in a Joker voice, but I didn't then. But I've taken a lot of different things out of the comics, and I've linked them in, and I've done different other things. I just wanted to keep it pretty self-planetary, and I didn't want to push it. I do want to push it to the limits in its own sense, but I did. Oh, this is a quote which I did quite like, because he starts mocking the Batman to Harley Quinn, because Harley Quinn's like trying to ask him, why is he obsessed with Batman, and and he turns around and goes, well, where do I start? Batman was a strange and unique person. He is lurking in the shadows, thinking he is top dog, when we all know he is just a man in a suit, nothing special, just a man obsessed with bats. Well, that's what we all think. I like the magic where he creates chaos around Gotham. He focuses or devotes himself to false justice, that is, and saving people. Think about, what does Batman truly? Does he truly look happy with the work that he does? Like I said, I have delved into a lot of comics, so a lot of this is like taking bits out of there, but obviously it's mainly scripted, off my own initiative. But like I said, I've looked through different comic books and that, and I've just noticed a grammar mistake, so it's a good job I'm going through this. But like I said, I want it to be really good, and obviously, I want it to be perfect before I send it off. So I've gone through different comic books. I've just started reading another couple of comic books, to like define it a bit better. I haven't worked on it for about a week or two now, because I've been working on other stuff. So I just want to define it. So I've been reading more comic books, so I can get back into the feel of it. So then I know what I'm doing. So yeah, basically that's just a little overall of that Joker script, which I said I'd do as an episode, just to go through it a little bit, give a little bit more back detail into it. So I didn't want to go too advanced, because obviously I didn't want to make it a long podcast like the other one, because it's just something basic, because obviously I'm still scripting it. So I just wanted to do an episode, like a different, update of what's going on, what I'm doing, the plans for it, just go into a little bit of back detail into it, just in case some of you are interested in, in this script, which I mentioned in the last episode. So once again, if you've listened into the entire podcast, it's not as long as the other one, so that's a good thing. It's a bad thing or a good thing, but thank you if you've listened all the way to the end. So I'm doing another episode, which, I say I'm doing another episode. I'm doing a weekly podcast. I'm going to try and do a minimum of one each week. I might do 2 or 3. It just depends on how long they are, how long they take to edit. So, once again, thank you for listening to Wonder Dream podcast episode 2. Next episode will be about the Child's Play remake. I'm going to go into quite a lot of detail to that, so it might be another lengthy podcast. We'll just see what I film, what things I pick up on, try to get some fan opinions. So, if you're interested in it, drop me some messages through the Indigo page, and I will get back to you, and I will add them into the podcast if I see them deemed fit. So once again, thank you for tuning in to Wonder Dream Podcast, and I'll see you in the next episode.